To me, community means being able to meet together, virtually or not, being sociable, spending time together and sharing together. Being in community means we're in a safe place to be humble and to share things that we need help with, share things that mean a lot to us, because it's easier to grow together and to build each other up than to do so on our own.
To me, the community means being a part of something, with people that want to be part of the same thing. We work towards a common goal, and it gives me a sense of support, understanding, and being included. Because in a community, we are there for each other, we've got each other's backs, we share experiences, we lift each other up, there is no judgment, everyone feels welcome and fully accepted. No matter what, no matter their background, their nationality, their first language, everyone's just valued and accepted. And it's somewhere where everyone can come without feeling down, and they'll be taken care of, kind of like a big family.
To me, community means having friends that are there with me, that go with me through the really challenging things of life, as well as celebrating with me the good things that are happening. And I do the same with them. And it also means having support when my family is living in a different country.
Hello and welcome. We're so glad that you've joined us this evening at Encounter. We are the Christian Union and my name is Joel.
And I'm Izzy and we will be your hosts for this evening. Just to clarify, we are currently using Zoom webinar, which is a bit different from Zoom you're probably used to, meaning that we can't see or hear any of you guys, so nothing to worry about there. Just a quick run through the evening. After some introductions, we will later interview the lovely Francina about our question for this evening, Encounter Community, were we made for more than Zoom? And after that, we will hear from Robin, who will be talking to us about an encounter Jesus had with someone in the Bible.
If you have any questions that come out throughout the night about Christianity or anything else, we'll have a Zoom call immediately after this webinar. And that will be a great opportunity for you to get to know some of the members of the CU and discuss any questions or queries or anything that you have with our speaker and our interviewee from this evening. If, however, you feel like you really need to talk to someone at any point in the night, the Zoom call will be open and someone will be there to talk to you. And I'm about to post the link for that in the chat, so check out the chat.
Amazing. On that note, we are going to introduce Robin, who is our speaker for this evening. Welcome, Robin.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
And you.
Brilliant. So, Robin, we want to find out a bit about you. So briefly, like, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, well, I was asked this question on Monday night, and there might have been some people here on Monday. So for the sake of not boring them, I'll mix it up a little bit. So every time I introduce myself, I'll use like one of the different ways that I introduce myself. So I live in Wimbledon Village, and if you know anything about Wimbledon Village, it's kind of really like posh and full of really wealthy people. They kind of have, you know, houses with basements with swimming pools and gyms and cinemas and stuff, which is a bit weird because I always thought the point about going to the cinema and the gym and the swimming pool is like you meet other people rather than you just do it in your own house. Anyway, so we're at these kind of parties in Wimbledon Village and people say, oh, who are you? What do you do? So what do you say? So I say, I work for the largest multinational company in the world with the best boss. And you can see them going, wow, what's that then? What's that then? And then they ask, because they can't work it out, say, yeah, I work for the church, because it is the largest multinational company in the world, because the church is all over the world. And I've got the best boss, because he's God and he's wonderful. So that's what I do. I'm a vicar of the Church of England Church in Wimbledon Village. And what else do you want to know about me? I enjoy running, hoping to do the Paris Marathon in October. I enjoy cycling. I don't really enjoy swimming, but I do it sometimes because I do triathlons, and you have to swim to do a triathlon. So I try and keep fit, and what else? That's enough to be getting on with.
Amazing. Great. Thank you so much, Robin. We will hear from you a little bit later on. To start with, we have someone else here to talk to us about community. We want to welcome Francina.
Hi, Francina. Thank you so much for joining us. Our first question for you is, who are you and where are you from? So if you want to unmute yourself and share that, that would be amazing.
Yes, sorry, it was still on mute.
All right, don't worry.
No problem. So hi, my name is Francina de Pater. I live in the Netherlands. I was born and raised there, and I still live there in the beautiful city of Gouda. Maybe you know the cheese, Gouda cheese.
Yeah.
Yes, this is my city. It's a beautiful medieval city. And yeah, that's where I live with my husband and our children, though 2 of them are studying at the moment. So only the youngest is still with us at home.
Cool. Amazing. So what do you do? What do you do for work?
Yeah, I work for an organization which is called IFES, International Fellowship of Evangelical Students. So CU is also part of IFES. And I work for IFES Netherlands, and I'm their National Director for International Student Ministry. And like in the UK, also in the Netherlands, we have many students from other countries studying in the Netherlands. And yeah, we have many groups for them throughout the Netherlands. And also I work for IFES Europe, and also there I'm involved in international student ministry as the coordinator of IFES Europe.
Wow, that sounds great. So this year, over the last nearly 12 months, everything has been mostly online and a lot of it on Zoom. How have you been finding it? Has it been something good? Has it been bad?
Yeah, of course, it has been quite difficult. And of course, like a year ago, we had no idea where this was going to. So we heard first, about a virus far away in China, and okay, that's far away still. But then it came also to us, of course, and yeah, so everything basically has moved online. Universities have all their classes online, and still till today, and so that is very different from normal, and also now very much more difficult also to get to know students, because normally we would have like introduction markets and places where we could easily meet students face to face. But now everybody's online, so I guess we have to meet them online as well, and we have to find new ways actually to meet them, but also to do our activities. Normally we would have lots of like meals together or like big events, and this is obviously not possible at the moment. So yeah, we have to be creative and try and see what we can do. And sometimes we do take the opportunity, like for example for Christmas, we just were thinking like many students could not go home because of the whole situation. And we just found that it was such a heartbreaking idea that they would be there without their family, celebrating Christmas by themselves behind the computer. So we did an outreach, and then we handed out goodie bags to meet with them. And that was and we did an online event on Christmas Eve. So just to have an online community. This is also possible, and it's the theme of tonight, of course. So that's the good thing. And for example, now I think I could not have traveled to the UK, but now one click and I'm here with you. So this is also amazing. We can meet people from all over the world in a much easier way, because everybody's online and on Zoom and all these kinds of platforms. So it has also like good things and interesting things, but also, of course, it's quite difficult, to be online all day and behind your computer. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we're all very familiar with that feeling by now as well. So in terms of working with people from so many different backgrounds, cultures, and walks of life, what are some of the great things about that, and what are some of the challenges that you find doing that?
Yes, so I think I've always been very interested in people in general, and also in different cultures. During my studies, I went abroad. I was an international student myself. I went to study in Costa Rica, beautiful country, by the way. I learned another language there, Spanish, and it was an amazing experience. So to get to know people from such a very different culture, It was challenging for sure at the start, because also I could not speak Spanish, and that was really necessary. But even after that, because people are quite different, very hospitable, very welcoming, but yeah, they have their own cultural things. And I think this is the same when we are meeting with international students from all over the world. It's very exciting, and I just love to see how different we are, and at the same time we're all human. So I would say, like, inside there's also a lot that we have in common. Yeah, and I really I learned that also God really is a God of the nations, and he loves the diversity, and he loves everybody to become part of his family. And I think that is what we also would like to live out and demonstrate, because when you look now at the universities, and also even before COVID, we see that actually people tend to live in their monocultural bubbles. Like, people look for each other, and yeah, we see like Dutch students are in a grouping together, and then there's some students from Turkey, and there's some students from China. And so people tend to kind of live in monocultural bubbles. But I think it's so much more interesting when we can break those bubbles and make a larger bubble and include people in the same community. And yeah, that can be hard because we have different way of doing things. So for example, in Dutch culture is quite direct. So that can come across maybe sometimes as rude, or like, and for us being Dutch and always knowing like, okay, if a person says no, he means no. If she says yes, she means yes. But like, so I had to get used to, for example, more indirect cultures where people will say maybe, which is sometimes a no, but a polite no, or, you know, and then, so we have to guess, like, what do you really mean? Like, so this is some of the interesting and complicating factors sometimes to deal with different cultures, but it's always also a lot of fun, and we're all in the same position. If you come from different cultures, we just need to learn how to get to know each other and how to live with each other well. And it's so interesting. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I've grown up in Spain myself, so I can definitely relate to this in-between cultures situation. One of the things I love about the Surrey community, and from what you were saying about the university and the students that you've worked with, and that is being part of a diverse community. And I guess you were mentioning that your role within that is about building inclusiveness and about sharing a bit about Jesus and the gospel. How has your faith played into your job? How does it shape that?
Yeah, so for me, my faith has become a very important, actually central part of my life. And actually that happened when I was a student and I was really searching, and I was in my university, I encountered also an IFES group, and I started to study the Bible with other students. And yeah, I really felt that God was speaking to me, and that was such a wonderful experience, and to know more about his love, and yeah, again, his love for the nations and his inclusiveness, that his heart goes out to everyone on this earth. And also to have this experience of going abroad, studying in a completely different culture, and also feeling welcomed, and encountering this very hospitable culture. When I came back, I kind of looked at my own culture with different eyes, with a different view. And then I started to realize how individualistic we are in Western Europe, and like how everybody is really is having his or her agenda and his own things and his own circle. And so my heart started to go out to people that are living among us, but are sometimes not really connected. So actually, I started to do a very special type of ministry. Also because of my Spanish, I started to reach out to people in prostitution and human trafficking, many women coming from Latin America. But then after that, I started to work with international students and also with refugees. I think also with refugees, it goes, they come, they have left their countries and they are here among us, and they really need friendships, and they need people who care about them and help them also, yeah, to see how our society works. So yeah, and I really find a lot of joy in that. So to really build the connections and to make them feel welcome, as I was welcomed by God and also by other people in this world.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It sounds like such wonderful, rewarding work. It's amazing.
It's absolutely best job.
Amazing. Great. So now we're going to hear a little bit from the Bible, same passage that Robin will be talking to us about in just a moment. Our passage today is from Luke chapter 8, verses 40 to 56. Don't worry if you've not got a Bible in front of you, words should come up on the screen, so just follow along. Now when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. And a man named Jairus, a synagogue leader, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his house, because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, was dying. As Jesus was on his way, crowds almost crushed him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. Who touched me? Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, Master, people are crowding and pressing against you. But Jesus said, someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me. Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. While Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. Your daughter is dead, he said. Don't bother the teacher anymore. Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, Don't be afraid, just believe, and she will be healed. When he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning for her. Stop wailing, Jesus said. She is not dead, but asleep. They laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her up by the hand and said, My child, get up. Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. And Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened.
Brilliant. Thank you, Izzy. We're now going to hand over to Robin, who's going to speak to us about this theme of encountering community. So over to you, Robin.
Thank you very much. And can I say welcome back if you're here on Monday. And if you weren't, it's great to have you here for the first time. Thanks for coming along. Well, lockdown's seen some pretty strange things, hasn't it? Even today, I wonder if you saw that thing about the Texas lawyer whose mishap with a cat filter on Zoom made him an internet sensation. It's really funny. His assistant is trying to help him to sort out his screen, and he can be heard saying, I'm here alive. I'm not a cat. Well, I thought I was really bad on Zoom, but apparently this guy was much worse. And something like that would never, ever happen to me because, yeah, just wouldn't happen, would it? Because, you know, it just doesn't happen. Oh no, what's happened? Okay, and we're back. But actually, although there's been some really funny things about lockdown, there's been some really sad and serious things, of course, haven't there? I wonder if you've ever found yourself talking to chairs. Well, that's what happened to Shane Cocker, a 56-year-old from Dewsbury in West Yorkshire. He told the BBC, I was having discussions with chairs. I was thinking, why don't you answer me? You're stuck in four walls and you see nobody. You get up the next day and who do you see? Nobody. And he was describing, wasn't he, the creeping ache of lockdown loneliness. Well, I guess all of us have experienced something of that lockdown loneliness. I hope it hasn't been as bad as talking to chairs, but it's a big deal, isn't it? Let's be honest, social distancing, it's horrible. Whether that's sort of dancing with strangers in the supermarket to make sure that you're kind of 2 meters apart, or much more seriously, not being able to see friends and family and be on campus. Because the fact is, we were made for relationships and we long for community. Now, it's wonderful that we've got this technology that can do this kind of thing, and having people dial in from the Netherlands or wherever, it's fantastic. But of course, it can't replace that longing we have for contact, for community, for real people. And I think we find ourselves in this very strange time in human history. On the one hand, we've never been better connected. Not only Zoom, but you've got all the social media stuff, and we're incredibly well connected. And yet at the same time, we've never been further apart. And there's so much loneliness and isolation, not just in lockdown, but generally as well. Imagine though, if you had been self-isolating, not just for a few months, but for 12 years. 12 years. Well, that's what this woman who encounters Jesus in that true story from the Bible we just read has been doing. Because this unnamed woman has been chronically ill for 12 years. Just think of the physical pain. It looks like she's got some kind of hemorrhage in her uterus, and no doubt they're making her weak and anemic through blood loss. Must have been exhausting, painful. Think of the financial cost. There was no NHS. We're told that she'd spent all her money on doctors. Not only had they not helped her, but Mark's account of this same story tells us the doctors had made her worse. Now, the thing is, Luke is a doctor and he's writing this, so he leaves that bit out because he doesn't want to kind of, get doctors in a bad reputation. But what we might miss here is the social and the spiritual trauma that this illness caused her. You see, this woman was Jewish. And back then, the laws meant that her ongoing bleeding made her ritually unclean. So she couldn't come to the temple. She couldn't mix with other people. She was cut off from society. If you like, she was in a permanent quarantine, not just for 10 days or 2 weeks, but for 12 years. Can you imagine that? A 12-year quarantine. Now, maybe one of the things this COVID crisis is doing is making us kind of more aware of what that kind of isolation feels like. Not being on campus, not being able to play sport, not being able to hug your granny, not being able to go to church, whatever it is for you. And that's why we're told that this woman comes up behind Jesus and just very briefly touches the edge of his cloak. You see, there was a huge crowd jostling around Jesus, no doubt trying to get their selfie taken with him. And she's embarrassed. She's worried that she's going to be seen and snitched on because she shouldn't have been there in the crowd. Because as she bumped into other people, the Jewish law means that she made them unclean as well. She should have been home, not with the crowd. I've no idea whether they issued fines for people who kind of broke the rules, but if they did, she was in danger of a huge fine. And that's why she comes up behind Jesus, sort of sneaking up behind him, hoping that no one will notice. Now, maybe you can relate to that. Maybe that's you. I guess one of the advantages of being on Zoom is I've got no idea who might be watching this, where you're watching it from. And maybe you've kind of come anonymously and quietly kind of wondering what all this is about. And can I say, if that's you, that's fine. It's great to have you. Thank you so much for connecting. But here's the thing, I won't notice because I can't, but Jesus does notice because he sees everyone. And he notices this woman who's just touched his cloak very briefly. And the wonderful thing, he's not cross with her for what she's done. No, he longs for her to be better. And he can make her better because Jesus is the Son of God. He is God on earth. And therefore, he's got all the power of God himself. He's got power over death. We see that in the passage we've just read as he raises a little girl who's died to life. He's got power over disease as he heals this woman. He's got power over disaster. He's got power over the demons. Can I say, if you've never read one of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, I'd love you to do that and to see the power of this guy Jesus. It's astonishing. It's remarkable. It's amazing. Why not start with Luke's Gospel that we're looking at over these 2 weeks? You could use one of these Uncover Luke's Gospels. It's a really good way. It gives you kind of little resources to help you understand what's going on. Or maybe read it with a friend of yours and help them to kind of explain what's going on. And what we see is that the power of Jesus is immense. Luke tells us with just one touch of the edge of his cloak, the bleeding woman is healed immediately. No waiting. What a contrast to 12 long years of hospital appointments. No money. What a contrast to 12 long years of shelling out money to doctors. Now, again, maybe you can relate to that. Maybe you've been looking for ages in all sorts of places for healing or for connection or for acceptance. And can I say that you can find what you're looking for if you come to Jesus Christ? Now, what happens next is pretty puzzling. Jesus starts this chat about who touched him, and he seems to make a big deal about it. Who touched me? And you're thinking, well, hang on, Jesus, loads of people have touched you. Like everyone's been jostling along and bumping into you. Loads of people have been touching you. But he says, no, someone's touched me in a special way, in a different way. And he keeps on asking, who's done it? Now, the thing is, he knows who's touched him because he's God on earth. He knows everything. And it's not because he's cross with this woman that he's asking the question. No, it's because he's trying to draw her out and identify her. You see, Jesus knows that if she is to be publicly restored and included, she must be publicly healed. You see, a private healing might help her physically, but it's not going to help her socially. Everyone needs to know who touched him so that they know that she is no longer unclean. And so we see just how kind Jesus is as he is bringing this woman back into the community that she has been excluded from for at least 12 years. So we see the kindness of Jesus in restoring her. And we see his kindness too in what he calls her. I don't know if you noticed when Izzy was reading that passage, he talks about her as a daughter. He calls her daughter. It's the only time in the Gospels that someone's addressed with that word, daughter. Speaks of intimacy, of closeness, of connection. And so in just one instant, this woman goes from being an outsider to being an insider, from being on the fringe to being in God's family. Now, you might be wondering, why we're looking at this encounter that Jesus had with this unnamed woman 2,000 years ago. And the reason is, it's got everything to do with us tonight. You see, her problem is actually a bit of a picture of our problem. I said earlier that her her internal bleeding made her unclean. And the whole point of the kind of being unclean thing was to help us to see that actually inside, all of us are unclean. Now, let me make it really clear. There was no direct cause and effect with this woman and her illness. So it's not that she'd done some really, really bad things and so she was being punished for what she did wrong. The Bible doesn't talk like that. But it does say that actually all of us inside are not right. It's interesting, isn't it, in this whole kind of COVID situation, I think we've become much more aware of the categories of clean and unclean. You know, is that surface clean, or might it have some sort of invisible coronavirus on it? You know, have I washed my hands long enough to get rid of the virus? But the Bible says that our problem is not actually on the outside, but on the inside. There was another time when Jesus was talking with the religious leaders, and they were saying, oh, the big problem is what comes into you. That's what makes you unclean. And so you shouldn't touch that, and you shouldn't eat that, and you shouldn't go there. And Jesus says, no, you've got it wrong. He says, don't you see that nothing that enters a person from the outside can make them unclean? Now, he said, what comes out of a person is what makes them unclean. And Jesus says, for it's from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come: sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these things come from inside and make a person unclean. Now, I think if we are honest with ourselves, we know that to be true, don't we? There's stuff that we think that we just think, that's not right. And there's stuff that we say and we think, well, that's not right. Stuff that we put on social media and we think, oh, why did I do that? And the problem with this stuff is it cuts us off. It separates us. So it cuts us off from God, and it cuts us off from others. So that stuff in my heart that's not right, it cuts me off from God, because the Bible says that God is totally pure and totally good. And so he can't look on things that are not pure and not good. And so by nature, I am cut off, I'm separated from the God who made me. And if that stays unchanged, I'll be separated from him forever. It's what the Bible calls hell. So it cuts me off from God, but it also cuts me off from other people. I mean, just think about it. Think of the impact on other people of the things that Jesus talks about: sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. You see, when I do those things, it hurts people, and it separates me from people, and it causes problems with people. And so do you see all this kind of uncleanness in our heart? It actually disconnects us. It disconnects us from the God who loves us, and it disconnects us from other people. That's the bad news. But the really, really good news I've got for you tonight is that Jesus came to deal with this stuff. Jesus came not just to diagnose the problem, but to bring the solution. And the way he did that was by dying on the cross. The Bible says that when Jesus died on the cross, he took on himself all my unclean things, all that stuff in my heart that shouldn't be there. That on the cross, he was cut off from God, his Father, that he became unclean so that I could be made clean. And so the wonderful thing is that Jesus, if we put our trust in him, he brings us into communion with God, into relationship with him. You see, we were made for more than Zoom. In fact, we were made more than for just relationship with each other. We were made for a relationship with the God who made us and the God who loves us. Now, maybe you're watching this and you kind of feel like an outsider when it comes to God. Maybe you feel you come from the wrong background, or you've done so much wrong stuff, or you come from another religion that isn't Christianity, and you kind of feel like an outsider. Well, I love you to see that Jesus loves to include people, that as we put our faith in him, that he includes us, that there's no one beyond his ability to bring into a relationship with God. And to hear Jesus call you daughter or son as you're brought in from the outside into his family. So Jesus brings us into relationship with God, but he also brings us into relationship and community with others. And can I say that is one of the wonderful things about being a Christian, that I am connected with other Christians here in Wimbledon, throughout the country, and indeed throughout the world. And it's brilliant because we're different, but we are united in Jesus Christ, and with him in common. All those other differences, they kind of they become much, much less important. So that's the great news. Jesus is the one who can bring us into real community with God and community with each other. Jesus is the one who can bring about that relationships that we long for, that community that we hunger for. So how should we respond to all this? Well, I'd love you to do tonight what the woman in this story did, to touch the edge of Jesus's cloak. Now, clearly, we can't do that physically. Jesus is no longer on earth. The Bible says that after he died and rose again, he went back to be in heaven. So we can't touch him physically. But her touch was an act of faith. It was reaching out to him and believing in him in her way. And I'd love you to do that very same thing tonight, to, by faith, reach out to Jesus Christ, to touch him. And when you do that, you will find that he embraces you, that his arms enfold you, that he loves you now and forevermore. And can I say you can do that even tonight? If you want to know how to do that, I'd love to talk to you afterwards. But you could just, in the quietness of your room this evening, speak to him, reach out to him, and you'll find that Jesus will come to you and welcome you. Now, maybe you're watching this tonight and you're not quite ready to do that. Maybe this is very, very new to you. And this is the first time you've ever heard any of this kind of stuff and you've got big questions. Well, can I encourage you to ask those questions? Can I encourage you to find out more? After this, I'll be in a breakout room. Francesca will be there too. We'd love to chat to you and ask your questions and help you. Tomorrow at 2:00, there's another event which you can come to tomorrow at 2. And then Friday evening, 6:00, I'll be speaking again, looking at a different encounter Jesus has with some people in Luke's Gospel. I mentioned earlier this this Uncover resource. It's a really good one. You can find it online as well. It's a really good way of digging into Luke's Gospel and finding out more about that. We'll hear in just a minute about a course called Experience, which the Christian Union are running for anyone who wants to investigate a bit more. Why not come along and find out more? Why not go along to church? I realize that's not very easy at the moment because a lot of churches aren't meeting physically, but why not ask a friend of yours to, when they open up again, go along to church and see the kind of community that Jesus creates. It's extraordinary. So now we have people coming to our church, not yet Christians, and they look around and they see people all different ages and shapes and colors and political opinions and football teams. And they're kind of thinking, what are all these people doing in the same room? And I tell them it's because of Jesus that we're here. Sure, we've got many differences, but we are united in a wonderful community by Jesus Christ. So find out more. And can I say that finding out more is so worth it. There'll be a time when lockdown will end, and we hope that's really soon. There'll be a time when we get to be back on campus and life will return to some kind of normality, and that's great. But actually, lockdown, I think, has given us a real window into what it's like to be apart and separated and disconnected. And I really hope we don't lose that opportunity to see that, hey, Zoom is great, but it's limited. that what we need is human, real interaction and real connectedness. And actually, it's Jesus Christ who can only bring that. So can I encourage you to find out more and to come to put your trust in Jesus Christ? Because when you do that, you get connected back with God and you get connected with each other. Thanks so much for listening. I hope I'll be able to see you soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Robin. Lots of food for thought. I really hope that's explained something to you guys, or perhaps it's left you with even more questions, which is equally fine. If you want to find out more, there are further evening events happening at 6 p.m. On Friday, and then on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday of next week as well. We also have lunchtime events on Thursday this week, and then at Tuesday, Thursday next week as well. Evening events at 6 o'clock, lunchtime event at 2 o'clock. So yeah, please do come along. You're so welcome if you want to hear more.
So as well as all of those events, we also have an experience course, as Robin mentioned, that will be running for 4 weeks, starting the week beginning 22nd of February. So after these 2 weeks of events are over. And this will be a great chance to find out more about how some students at Surrey have experienced Jesus and looking really at what Jesus can bring to your life. And it's also an opportunity to ask questions about any aspect of Christianity, Jesus, or anything we've discussed throughout these 2 weeks. And it will be running online. So to find out how to get involved in that, head to our website. The link should be in the chat, and you can find out more information there. And on our website, you can also find our beautiful Connects form. And if you fill that in, you can get connected with someone from the Christian Union, and you can chat with them or whatever, ask questions, whatever you feel like. So do that as well.
Oh, one more thing. Robin mentioned Uncover in his talk, which is a really useful way of reading a gospel with a friend. Either somebody who invited you along here tonight, or if you would like to read it with someone from the Christian Union, send us a message on Facebook or Instagram and we'll find someone for you to read it. We'd be more than happy to do that.
So yeah, do stay up to date with everything that's going on throughout these next 2 weeks and other stuff by following us on Instagram at SurreyCU. And also, this is not the end of the evening. We're now heading over to another Zoom, which you can see the link should be in the chat for you. And so what we're going to be doing there is going to be an opportunity to meet you, to chat maybe to a CU member for you, or to speak to a speaker, Robin, or to Francina as well, or to anyone else who's here this evening. So you can come along, and if you want to be anonymous, you can do so. You can have your video off. You can even change your name. And yeah, just come along, and hopefully it will be a time of great conversation and meeting each other and spending some time in community, even if that is online.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much again for joining us. Please do come to the Zoom, and we wish you a very good night. Thanks so much for coming.